May 17th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is what the chart looked like today. For most of the pre-market, it looked like from pre-market until about, I would say, an hour and a half, actually 2 hours into the trading day. Prices looked like they were just kind of oscillating between this trading range. And they made two pushes up, and then on the third push up, it really rallied. And there was a sell off and then kind of went into this other trading range for the last 90 minutes. I took two trades today, both for green. You don't have to watch the entire video. Just go down to the descriptions below. You can see where I saw my setups as well as where I took my trades. So let's just get into this. So in the pre-market, I don't trade the pre-market, but there was two moves up or two legs up that I saw. I created this top and bottom on the pre-market high and low to create the trading range. So right on the open, I don't really see a good setup. I mean, technically there is a new high here, first entry long, and you could say this is second entry long, but this is very congested. Also, these are just one tick moves. You could also see this one big leg. So I saw this. I didn't really like it. It's also very spiky. So just kind of sat on my hands. This is what you're seeing. And then prices look like they're in this trend channel. Touched the high only twice though. Although I was considering perhaps moving it down, but still it is only really two clear touches, unless you get really tiny and say 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's kind of I don't think that really strengthens the argument that this is a trend channel. But it did touch 3 times on the bottom, so I felt the bottom support was stronger than potentially the top resistance. So it continues. It touches a fourth time per my count. I'm wondering if it's going to come back up, but it's already pretty close to the top of this trading range. So I don't see a setup. Prices continue moving down. Then prices continue. It goes into this trend channel, goes down. It breaks out. There's an undershoot. I'm wondering if it's going to break out through the top. Now it's consistently closing outside, moves back in, and here it's the overshoot, so kind of moved back in the same amount that it shot out. Prices continue moving down. I'm thinking it should come down and test the bottom of this trading range because it moved up touched, and I just want to see if this trading range is valid. So I'm looking for another move back down here. I do see the first setup here is a new low, first entry short, second entry short. This is a decent single bar, except that it's also an inside bar because it's kind of inside the previous candle, and it didn't touch the EMA. I really wanted to kind of come up, touch the EMA, and then reject back down. Then I would have felt more confident on taking this trade. So I was just waiting to see if there's a lower high confirmation. Lower high confirmation doesn't really show up till about here, but now it feels like it has moved too far. It certainly broke below the lows of the previous candle, so this lower high, it might already be bottoming out. So instead of taking a lower high and shorting maybe down here, I just kind of felt the move is, too far. The trade's already been made. It might also reject back up. So considering all that, I'm not really sure what's happening because this is also the first break of this shortened trend channel. First break up, it already made another push up, and now it made one push down. It could reverse, make one move up and back down, but all that being said, it already tested the low of this shortened trend channel. Already broke up and then tested the low. So to take a short off the lower high just felt very risky. Prices continue moving. It now comes up, touches the EMA, and it breaks through. I have this channel drawn first, and I notice it's overshoot, so I'm thinking it's going to break out through the other side. It doesn't until about right here. I see a new high, first entry long. I see a potential second entry long. The problem with this second entry long is that it's almost a good trade because the signal bar is pretty decent. It closed near the high. The unfortunate thing is it closed below the EMA. Now, it's not quite in the trading range yet for me to kind of negate the power of the EMA. So if it closed just at the EMA or above, I would have felt more confident taking this trade. So again, I just sat waiting for a higher low confirmation. So you don't get a higher low till about right here. So I see the higher low, but it closed kind of near the top of this trading range that I'm seeing developing. Then it's making another higher low right here. So I'm thinking if this moves up, I might take a trade one tick above. It does. It flashes up. I take the trade. I enter. I actually get a pretty good fill. And I'm thinking the EMA is going to hold, but I was thinking in hindsight that perhaps this might have been premature because this isn't the best signal bar. Fortunately, it flashes up. And since I had a pretty decent fill, when it moved up, it hit the top of the trading range and I was able to get out before then. Then, as you can see, the price action would have made the trade, I would have been safe, but you don't know that at the time when you only see this. But I did know that my profit target was going to be before it hit the high of the trading range. So that's my first trade. I was green. I also saw that, I mean, this is just kind of adding a little bit more belief in the trade, was even though the EMA was holding, I did see a second leg up on the larger measured move. So this is like one leg up. I saw it came down, pushed up once, pushed up twice, came down. So it's kind of like one leg down, pushed up, second leg down. I'm thinking there's a potential measured move. Of course, when I saw this in real time, I was thinking that, but I wasn't holding that as the basis of taking the trade because it's not a rule that it will come up and touch this, but I just thought perhaps it might. So granted, this trade could be seen as maybe aggressive, but it worked out and I was planning on getting out before they hit the top of this trading range. Prices continue moving up. I draw this trend channel, touches the bottom twice, touches the top much better because it hit like 3 times. Then it kind of chops around sideways. I do see a new high here. I see a first entry long. I see a potential second entry long setting up here. This is a pretty good signal bar on the close. It bounced off the EMA. It is a little sideways right now, and it feels a little congested because you have these two dojis and then you have these two reasonable candles. So just seeing all that, it felt like it's in a possible trading range with congestion. So I want, again, a higher low just to, because I saw it pushed up twice, had a double top. To take this entry with one tick above on the next candle, you don't have much room. I mean, it would be enough for a scalp, but it just felt a little iffy. So if I had entered right now, one tick above, I wouldn't have gotten out yet, and my stop would be one tick below this guy. And then here on this candle down, it would have taken me out. And for sure, one of these two candles would have taken me out if I gave it a little bit more room to run. So it moves back up to the top of the trading range, breaks out. It could be a potential fail breakout, but overall, the trend and bias of the market is going up. Breaks out, comes back into the trading range. And now I do see this new high, see a first entry long, but I also saw this was a new low, first entry short here, comes down. This is a second entry short, so it's a failed second entry short potentially. Definitely a second entry short, but the EMA is holding. I also saw it as potentially a higher low, and since this trading range seems to be in play, looks like it's a failed breakout pullback, so it could potentially move back up. So and made a double top. So if I was going to take this trade, I would have put my entry one tick above. And on this candle, if I'd taken this trade, it would have filled and definitely would have gotten the scalp right here. So this had a few things going for it. It is, a breakout pullback possibility. It is testing the bottom of this trading range, which has confirmed a couple of times. And so it looked like a pretty decent trade in hindsight. If this closed a little bit more bullish or maybe even one tick above, I think I would have felt a little more confident, or at least just more above here instead of kind of neutral here. Prices continue moving up. Touches and tests the top of this trading range. This time it has an overshoot, and I'm thinking it's going to come down and make another overshoot on this side. It does right here, but it doesn't make me feel confident taking a trade to go long because it is below the EMA. Excuse me. Prices continue moving down. It looks like it's fallen into this trend channel. Comes down. It makes a new low. I did see this as a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but it feels like it's just one big move. I also want to note that there was potentially a short here because I did track that there was a new low here. There's potentially one leg because it consolidates and then maybe a second leg coming up. So if there was a short here, if you counted this as a new low, it'd be first entry short, second entry short. So this is actually a reasonably good trade. It's right here. Actually marked it. I didn't remember seeing it. So let me just back up a little bit. This is a failed this is a failed breakout of this larger trading range in a second entry short. So this is actually a very good trade to have taken, but I didn't take it, unfortunately. It's a good signal bar, even though it made a double bottom, but it has a few things going for it. It broke out of both this trend channel, failed breakout, and this trading range, another failed breakout. On top of that, it already made, if you counted this as a new low, first entry short, second entry short, it's a pretty decent signal bar. So you would expect prices to come back down, maybe test the midline, and maybe come all the way down to the bottom of the trading range. On top of that, it made a clean two measured legs up. But as I said, I didn't take that trade, unfortunately. Prices continue moving up. And then it kind of falls into this trading trend channel that I thought. It breaks out. I'm thinking maybe there's a failed breakout, but this is a second failed breakout. So either the trend channel, either trading range needs to move up, or this is going to be another failed breakout. It does fail to meet this high. It chops around. I do see a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. And unfortunately, this signal bar isn't very good. And it did bounce off the EMA though, but I wasn't sure. I'm just looking for, again, for another higher low confirmation. Unfortunately, I don't get a higher low till about here. This is considered a higher low confirmation, but it looks very bearish. And it looks like it's falling again within a trading range. So even though EMA is holding, I'm not 100% sure if this is going to play out correctly. It chops sideways. It makes me even more reluctant to enter this trade because it feels very congested. Chops, and now I see a failed second entry short. So this is actually during all this noise, you see this as a new low, first entry short, and then this is where the second entry short's actually confirmed and made. Comes down, and on this signal bar, it fails. So right here, you should be, or I should have been thinking, okay, this is probably going to be bullish because right now the EMA is being respected. It's breaking out of this trading range. It made an attempt to break back in, but it failed and it's coming back up. It makes a second attempt to come back in, and it potentially might fail. So when this candle formed, it is also a triple test on the bottom part of this trading range when I had it a little bit higher, but I wasn't 100% sure because it is congested. The second entry short has failed. It's near the top of this trading range because I also had this a little bit lower at one time. So I wasn't sure I had enough room to scalp out and it would hit the top and maybe get rejected back down. And so I just kind of sat back and I waited. And I said, well, maybe I'll wait again for a higher low. You don't get a higher low until all the way up here. But now the move feels like it's been made. It made a new high. To take a long here feels like you're buying at the top. I do see a failed second entry short again, because if you count this as a new low and reset the count, it'd be first entry short right here, just one tick below, a second entry short. This is a pretty strong signal bar. Unfortunately, again, it's already near the highs. So it's buying at the high, which I didn't feel was strong enough to take. And it does feel a little congested right here. These are side by side, so it looks like there is a struggle between the bulls and the bears to figure out which direction they want to go. This is the first break of this shortened trend channel. So it broke out once. It already made a pretty close high. So to ask it to go a couple more ticks to make the high isn't that unreasonable, but to make it go even more for a full point, I wasn't sure that it had enough power, because you don't know what it, well, in hindsight, you know what the day looked like, but you don't know at the time what this is going to do. So I was just looking for maybe a potential pullback to the EMA to maybe go long. It doesn't offer you that opportunity. I draw this shortened trend channel right here, kind of encapsulating this move up. And at the time, I didn't have this big one drawn yet. I did have this lower part of this channel. Excuse me. This lower part of this channel drawn as a potential support. Breaks out. It also made a measure move up, which also gave me a little bit of pause because it was one leg up, consolidation, and a second leg up. So right here, that was kind of making me think, well, you're not really sure what's going to go on, just leave it alone. Touches new high, comes back down. When it hits this, that's when I increased. I drew, originally I had this down here, and looks like it was overshooting too much. So then I dragged it up here. Looks like it was overshooting 2 more times. So then I increased the channel width all the way up to here to capture this. It breaks out again. I see this as a potential overshoot, comes back down. I'm wondering if it's going to bounce off the EMA because now it's clearly a very bullish trend. The market has reversed from this sideways consolidation to a full-on bull move. Prices made first entry long there. I'm wondering if it's going to make a second entry long. Right here is all while this is happening, you're always looking for second entry long, but once it breaks below the EMA, then I'm a little more cautious now. This is a pretty neutral signal bar, but not good enough to anticipate, even when this one closes, now close above the EMA. Technically, this is where your signal bar is. If I was going to enter here, I'd take it one tick above. However, since it broke below the EMA, I wasn't sure if this is a good enough setup, so I left it alone. Prices did move up. And here, so this is what I was thinking. I saw this. I saw a one leg down, second leg down, and made one leg up. It kind of didn't really pull back, so just moved one leg up. And when this bar closed, this is a little bit of an aggressive trade. I thought, okay, well, it looks like it has enough power to come back up to the highs, at least enough for a scalp. And this candle here did bounce off the EMA. So even though it's a first entry long, second entry long, I'm a little late on the entry, but I wasn't ready to enter on this candle. And then this one, the real entry should have been after this candle closed. I should have entered on this red doji candle because you didn't know that was going to be a red doji. You would have put it one tick above, would have filled you. Your stop would have been down here, and this candle probably would have scalped you out, if not in this one for sure. But I was a little late on this. It was a little bit of a chase, so I took one entry above here. I was able to get out right there, and it looks like I would have, even though I was late, the market was still strong enough to push up. And prices continue moving up. Also, what was giving me a little more confidence on this trade was the fact that on a super strong bull day like this, or at least super strong bull move up, all these candles are pretty tiny, and the pullbacks have been pretty mediocre, pretty small. So even though this one pulled back, it still failed to break out decisively and move all the way down past the EMA. So that gave me a little bit of confidence that any kind of setup off the EMA or off a channel line I should take. So that one gave me a little more confidence to take this one, but this admittedly isn't the highest probability trade. The entry actually was, as I said, right on this red doji. And I do see a new second entry short here. It's a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. But this is, although I identified it, it is not a good trade to take, even though it has a good signal bar. The reason being is there's enough room to EMA. However, you're going to counter trend against this gigantic strength of all the bulls already pushing it up. To assume that the bulls have been exhausted would be kind of really dangerous because you'd be picking the top, and I certainly don't want to do that, try to pick the top. So seeing that, I just left it alone. Prices come down. It's almost touches EMA, breaks out. Let's see here. Chop sideways. I mean, there is a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, but this isn't a very good signal bar. On top of that, it is, again, counter trend to the bullish power today. Chop sideways. It makes a double top here, comes back down. So I draw this support here, this resistance here, and I wasn't 100% clear where the resistance was or support was down here. I had the resistance up here. So at one time I was thinking maybe it's consolidating something like this. Prices moved down, and then as it broke down, then I said, okay, maybe it's actually right here. And it broke down again, then I thought maybe it's right there. And I did see a new high here. I saw a first entry long. It's the first time it broke above. It almost matched, came down, made a second entry long. But this is a terrible signal bar. And this is the first break of the shortened trend channel. So after it breaks out, I'm thinking it's going to come back down and test this, if at anything. But more likely, it's going to maybe power up through here. But you don't know that for sure because it still can make another leg down before it reverses back into this channel. So I left it alone. I mean, if you took it, then for sure you probably would have gotten your scalp here. I also see a higher low here. The higher low does confirm the second entry long, but the higher low, it's not the best, most convincing candle because I'm still thinking, even though this is a very strong bullish uptrend, it could still make a second leg down before it resumes this big uptrend because it might need a little bit of time to play out before it continues the uptrend. So I left that trade alone. If I did enter, it would have been one tick above here, and it would have been below or right at the EMA. It looks like not necessarily, I mean, depending on how many points you were getting, you might have just gotten out, but it made a double top here. I do see a second entry short here. First entry short, second entry short right there. But the second entry short is not a very good signal bar, which would be this guy. It feels very doji-ish. And I do draw this resistance here. And I wasn't sure where the support was at the moment because I was thinking maybe it was here and this could potentially be an overshoot. But then I brought it down to here. So yes, there's might be a move right back down to the bottom, but still keeping in mind that overall trend, the market wants to move up. So it could have been one leg down, two pushes up, but I wasn't sure. So I just kind of sat on my hands. So if you did take the short off this terrible signal bar, it looks like you would have had just enough to maybe scalp out. For sure, if you were scalping, you would have gotten it out here. I do see a lower high here. Lower high, I had wished it actually went up and touched the EMA before turning back down, but it didn't. So I had to sit on my hands again because this lower high does confirm the first entry short, second entry short here, but it just wasn't quite a good enough setup in my opinion. And also it could have been, at the time I was thinking it might be in a trading range because even though I had it right here, to take this entry after this confirmed lower high, even if you snuck it back one tick, there's not that much room before you hit the bottom of this trading range. And what was telling me is this still could move up. So you'd be buying, you'd be shorting at the near the bottom. Turns out it would have worked. Of course, you don't know that if time comes back up, it almost touches EMA, continues going down, chops around. I'm looking for second entry shorts potentially to confirm this move, or a failed second entry short if this thing looks like it's coming into play. But at the moment, in the localized time frame, things are bearish. Prices continue moving down. It comes up, it breaks out. It looks like it might start to reverse and start come back up here, but I'm not sure yet. It comes into this trading trend channel. This is the first break. It already made a new high. It made a second attempt at a new high, but it falls short by about one tick. Oh no, actually it's a double top, excuse me. Then it breaks up, so it does confirm it breaks a new high. Then it flashes down, and this is getting a little bit late in the day, and it was a little confusing, so I wasn't sure what I was looking at. This creates this shortened trend channel. I couldn't quite get it to fit, but the midline looks like it was fitting pretty well. This midline dotted in this top breaks out, and I'm thinking if it's going to make a new low, it's going to test this bottom. So looking for a short feels a little premature because it feels like you'd be shorting at the lows, because I think there might be potential resistance or bounce here. It doesn't even get there and it starts to bounce. And it comes back, touches the EMA, comes back down. EMA is flattening and turning sideways. Chops around. You do have a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. I consider this a potential trade when I saw this, but it is getting late in the day. And these previous candles are very doji-ish, so it's very, very congested. There's a struggle now between the bulls and the bears because, as you can see, the open and close were very close to each other. Even though these big highs and lows were made, it's hard to tell which side's going to win because previously you had a very bullish move up, then you had a bearish correction, and now you look like you're chopping sideways. So which side's going to win? It felt like a coin flip, so definitely not a trade I want to take. Then it flashes up, hits the midline. It struggles for 3 candles here, then it continues up. Of course, this is pretty late in the day now, and it touches the top, and that's where I draw this resistance. And I had this support kind of right about here. So that kind of confirmed I'm in a trading range. So I'm thinking prices might come back down now. This isn't a good candle. It breaks out. I'm thinking fail breakout. It does have a fail breakout, but there was no real clear setup because to take a fail breakout here, you'd assume that there's going to be no candle coming up because where would your stop be? Probably right here. And where would you enter? Maybe one tick below here. And it turns out that play would have worked, but you don't know it at the time. So when you do see this flash down as a confirmation, you're still not 100% sure. I'm still not 100% sure it is a trading range. So it felt risky to take a short below after this closed because there's not that much room to the EMA now. Looks like it chopped. I mean, if I took it here, it looks like I would have. Nope, there's not enough room because this is only 1 point apart, these little designations right now. So I wouldn't have gotten out. And potentially I would have gotten stopped out because I would have put my stop. Technically, I would put it up here, but it felt a little bit risky. And it's late in the day. Looks like I would have gotten stopped out right on this candle. Then prices continue moving, chops, and then goes into the close. So it was a kind of an interesting day. I don't think anybody anticipated that this was going to happen. There was no big news item that came out today. So except for President Biden came out and just said a few words about the debt ceiling, but I didn't think that that was worth noting to have caused anything like this to move up. So it was two legs up, and then it flashed up this big bull rally, and then corrected. So that's how I saw the trades today.